Hi, this is Hiki with the Lost Samba podcast, and this week we're going back to my beloved Rio de Janeiro, and we're going to talk about the living royalty of samba, Paulinho da Viola.
Teve tremendo pagode que você não pode imaginar. Mas no domingo, lá na casa do Vavá, teve tremendo pagode que você não pode imaginar.
He is of the same generation of the Tropicalia. Right? He has the same age as the guys, and he appeared more or less at the same time. But unlike them, who wanted to come up with something revolutionary, and that saw the samba as a crude origin of the bossa nova, which they revered, and that João Gilberto took to a new level, as we saw in last week's podcast. Similar to the Tropicalistas, the bossa nova crowd that preceded them from Rio also had the same prejudices or preconceptions about samba. They saw this as a music done by people who could potentially be their maids or the servants in their buildings, or bus drivers, you know, of a lower class. And although they had a curiosity about this culture from the favelas or from the, let's say it, from the black people, they patronized it. They didn't see themselves as part of it. And from the perspective of the sambistas, the bossa nova crowd were just white kids trying to play the part, you know, playing their music, trying to look cool, but they weren't real sambistas. Let's talk about Paulinho da Viola. He was a sambista himself. He was the real thing. The first thing that shouts out for anyone who follows him is that he goes against all the stereotypes one could have about a sambista. He's very well spoken, softly spoken, very educated, very polite, very reserved, and it goes against everything that people would imagine from a famous sambista. You know, rowdy guy full of women and you know, drinks a lot. No, he's very homely guy and very quiet. He was born in the same district as I was born, Botafogo, which is also the team that I support in Rio. And different to me, of course, he was born into a family of sambistas. His dad was a sambista. He was a known guitar player within the samba world, and a good one. So his house was frequented by the cream of samba at the time. To name a few people who went to their house: Pixinguinha, the god of chorinho, chorinho being jazzy kind of samba. It's instrumental. Pixinguinha was the biggest name in Brazil. Everybody knows about Pixinguinha. Guilhermando Reis, a great guitarist, and Jacó do Bandolim, who was like the king of the mandolin in chorinho. So his house was very well frequented musically. There would be jam sessions there, and Paulinho da Viola absorbed all of that. For a sensitive boy with talent, there couldn't have been a better induction into music than that. So he really knew samba profoundly. Because samba is very lively, it's very pleasurable, very enjoyable. It was never a fashion, it was just there. It's part and parcel of Carioca life. The main thing about samba, in Rio at least, is that it was a space where people who did not belong to the bubble of the Zona Sul, Copacabana, Ipanema, Leblon, that was almost like an apartheid thing. Like the Zona Sul is surrounded by mountains, and it has all the beautiful views that you see in postcards of Rio. So the people who did not belong to that bubble, they were the people who really went to the Samba, and the Samba for them was almost like a club. Where they met their friends, when they drank beer after playing football, and where they met their love interest. Whoever has been to a proper Samba knows that it doesn't involve a stage with someone singing and you're not a band and the public is here and the artist is there. No, it's usually a table full of beer bottles and some guys with percussion. Samba is something that happens, right? Suddenly it kind of, the vibe is there and everybody's singing, everybody's having a great time, everybody's dancing, and this is better, for me at least, than a lot of clubs I have been to, raves and things like that. It's more, how would I say, human, right? It has a human warmth to it, and because of this, it never was a fashion, it was in fashion, nor out of fashion, was never a revolutionary proposal, it was just there. And perhaps because of this, it is in a way revolutionary, because it is the voice of the people, or the space of the people who don't have a voice, or who don't have a space, or who are not visible in the main media, who are not part of the big consumer market. From the 40s until today, it's resisted all the fashion. It's still very much alive. If you go to Rio, you'll find Samba places. Until today, although Rio has changed so much, it was a capital, it's not anymore. It was rich, now it's poor. But the Samba is still alive and kicking. There are commercial forms of Samba, or versions of a Samba. The one that comes to mind is pagode, which involves stages, sound systems, dancers, makeup, and everything you can imagine that a commercial group brings. But the Samba that we're talking about is more something like Cuba's Buena Vista Social Club. It's something rootsy. It's just people sitting around playing music. And in this, Paulinho da Viola is absolute royalty. In the late 70s, from the mid 70s until the mid 80s, Paulinho da Viola rubbed shoulders with the biggest names of Brazilian music. Chico Buarque, Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil. He had more or less the same level as respect as these guys. It must be said that it wasn't he who ran after them to be promoted. On the contrary, it was them who ran after Paulinho da Viola when they wanted to sound authentic, when they wanted to sound of the people. Despite having done all the wheelings and dealings that you have to do to get into the music industry, the big break for Paulinho da Viola's career was when he presented himself in festivals, the same as the Tropicalia crowd, and it was from there that he became a big name in Brazilian music. But he never budged from the Samba. He was always a sambista. He always records Samba with like proper instrumentalists who came from the favela, who were good at Samba. Paulinho da Viola also never got the easy route of doing more commercial strands of samba. He always remained to that Buena Vista Social Club kind of thing, the authentic samba. He also didn't have the personality for that. He's not the kind of guy who kind of be dancing in on the stage, calling out for the crowd to sing with him. No, on a good Paulinho da Viola gig, he would end up dancing because the samba was so strong and so lively that you would end up dancing. He himself wasn't like a charismatic guy who sang for the crowds. No, he even on stage he was very composed, very like noble looking. He really, there's a nobility about Paulinho da Viola that I don't think any other, perhaps only Chico Buarque, has in Brazilian music. One can't talk about Paulinho da Viola without talking about the big passion of his life, which is the Portela Samba School. He is like deeply connected to it. The samba schools in Rio, they appear in the carnival, but they're much more than this. They represent big communities, and they are part of the pride of being from the favela or being poor. But in that day of the carnival, in the carnival parades, they're kings of the town, and things are very luxurious, and they really, it is as if they take over the town. There are implications of this, which we'll perhaps talk on another podcast, but samba schools are very important in the culture of the north side of the city, the side of the city that's not the Zona Sul, as we explained before. In the Portela Samba School, there is the old guard of the Portela, the velha guarda da Portela, which are like the elders of the Samba School, and they are all people who were great in the glory days of samba, the 30s, 40s, early 50s. They are respected by the whole Samba School and by the community and throughout Rio. He worked a lot with these people. He recorded with them. He was respected by them and he respected them. It's symbiosis. Although he's from a younger generation, now he's like in his 80s, so now he's part of the old guard. But he has been part of the old guard since he was in his 40s, so he came across many big names of samba in the Velha Guarda da Portela. Until this day, every weekend in Rio, they'll play these hits from the 40s, from the 30s, from the 50s. They're still played regularly in rodas de samba, and there are thousands of them happening throughout Rio every weekend. The song that I'm going to play today is almost like the unofficial anthem of Rio de Janeiro. Every Carioca knows it, some off by heart or some parts of it. It expresses Rio's vibe or the vibe of the Cariocas. It's a joyful song full of life, full of rhythm, and I hope you like it. Dia meu coração for consultado para saber se andou errado, será difícil negar. Meu coração tem manias de amor, amor não é fácil de achar. marca dos meus desenganos ficou. Só um amor pode apagar, ai, araia. A marca dos meus desenganos ficou. Só um amor pode apagar, mas porém, há um caso diferente que marcou um leve tempo. Meu coração para sempre era dia de carnaval. Carregava uma tristeza, não pensava em novo amor. Quando alguém que não me lembra anunciou Portela, o samba trazendo alvorada, meu coração conquistou a minha Portela. Quando eu vi você passar, senti meu coração apressado, todo meu corpo tomado, minha alegria voltar. Não posso definir aquele azul, não era do céu, nem era do mar. Foi um rio que passou em minha vida, que meu coração se deixou levar. Foi um rio que passou em minha vida, que meu coração se deixou levar. Laiá, 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 laiá. Se um dia, except the fact that I saw Paulinho da Viola once or twice walking down the street, there's no big quirk that I experience with him or that I have with him, except that a bit like Spanish music, I would say, Samba or Paulinho da Viola Samba has a lot of depth to it. There are two sentences in his songs that stayed with me, and I guess they stayed with a lot of people for a long time. One is, it says, when I think of the future, I don't forget my past. I mean, that's very strong. You will know it's a way to go in our life. You go with courage to the future, but without forgetting who you are, where you come from, and like this you live a healthy present. This is a very profound and good lesson that I learned from his lyrics. And the other one is that he says that despite all the bad things that happen and all the craziness of the world, there's this fountain of pure water, right? And who drinks of it, or who will drink from it will not feel bitterness. This is also for me a very important lesson. It's there is a place within us that if you drink from it, you will stay sane in this crazy world. And lastly, on a personal note, this is I think my 15th podcast, and the only podcast that really brought tears to my eyes and that I miss Brazil was this one. Perhaps it's because it talks about my town, but also the joy of the people who will live there. I wish I'll be there when I see them, when I listen to Paulinho da Viola's songs. So this is the Samba, this is the lost Samba, which everybody has to find and their own Samba and recuperate it. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.